Guys, we've got to talk about this Alexander Isak situation because it's absolutely crazy and so many things are developing from him going on tour but being injured to him being sent back from tour. But if he's injured, why isn't he recovering in Newcastle? Why is he in Spain? Alexander Isak forcing a move, Newcastle saying not for sale. And Newcastle, I feel like when a player's forcing a move this much, it puts them in a difficult position. But the problem Newcastle are having is João Pedro couldn't get, he could play 9. Delap couldn't get, he could play 9. Ekitike, Liverpool already stole him. And now they want Benjamin Sesko, whose preference is Man United. But, you know, Newcastle fans watching, I will say, financially, Man United aren't in the best position to do a deal. So Sesko might not want to wait for Man United. So you could get Sesko, but apparently he prefers United. And Newcastle had this sort of not very nice window, and then halfway through it, Alexander Isak doesn't tell them in May, doesn't tell them in June, waits to mid-July and is like forcing a move to Liverpool. As soon as they miss out on Ekitike, Isak starts forcing the move. You talk about timing, and this whole situation is a bit of a joke. So I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about all the news, the bid going in, the bid's gone in, another bid's going in. Do I think the deal will be done? I'm going to talk about Isak agreeing terms, but I also want to talk about the whole situation with the way that Isak is forcing the move. I also want to talk about why I think Isak has chosen Liverpool. Why is he forcing a move to Liverpool? Why does he want to leave Newcastle? Because he didn't want to leave Newcastle, and then mid-July he did, and he waited till they missed out on Ekitike to be like, I want Liverpool, which is a bit of a joke. But I think, do you know what it is? And I'm going to give it a short answer here, but I want to get into the news. I think Isak saw Champions League football, like a lot of Newcastle fans did, and thought, boom, Champions League football, money come in, we'll make a few signings, and this is the year we can catch up with Chelsea, Liverpool, City, Arsenal. The top 4 is Chelsea, Liverpool, City, Arsenal. You've got your Villas and Newcastles that want to catch up with them, and then you've got Man United and Spurs that just want to be at least where Villa and Newcastle are next season. And I think Isak saw Champions League football. You know, you hear all these positive things. Okay, Newcastle are now going to go and look to sign a centre back. They were going to look to go for Mbeumo. They were going to go for João Pedro. There was a point where they were going to go for Ekitike, and things were positive. And I think he just saw Ekitike rejecting Newcastle and going to Liverpool as maybe the final straw. I think a lot of Newcastle fans went into this season with their hopes up. I thought Newcastle were going to have a good summer. Not this season, this summer with their hopes up. I thought Newcastle were going to have a good summer, and it's been an awful summer. And maybe Isak I honestly think, had Newcastle managed to sign like Mbeumo and Ekitike and Mark Gay, I think Isak wouldn't be forcing a move. I think Isak is in the transfer window, how it's going, and I think he's just gone, Newcastle aren't going to be competing next year. I think if Newcastle had a good window, they could close the gap, but they're not having a good window. And maybe that's why he's forcing his move to Liverpool. So let's actually talk about this. Let's talk about what Isak is doing, what's going on behind the scenes, and the news. And obviously the news coming out is that Liverpool have opened official talks with Newcastle for Alexander Isak. An opening bid has been sent. Newcastle rejected this bid, but the player made clear his preference to join Liverpool, and there's no talks over a new deal so far. We know the bid that was sent was a £120 million package plus add-ons, which I think is a good bid, but I think when Newcastle really don't want to sell, they are going to be asking for near £150 million. Now, Romano is suggesting that obviously Liverpool will bid again. Romano suggesting Liverpool plan to bid again soon. The bid's been rejected. We now have Ben Jacobs coming out right now, breaking. Liverpool have no plans to bid again for Alexander Isak this window. Nature of Newcastle's rebuttal means Liverpool will not follow up with a second offer, regarded as futile unless Newcastle change their stance and contact Liverpool. Now, I've seen a few Newcastle fans seeing this news and celebrating. I've seen a few Liverpool fans seeing this news and getting annoyed. This is classic negotiations. This doesn't mean Liverpool aren't going to bid again. This is Liverpool having their bid rejected and saying, we're not going to bid again. And do you know why Liverpool are doing that? Because Isak is forcing the move. Isak is forcing the move to Liverpool. He doesn't want to be at Newcastle. He's going to probably refuse to play. He's going to refuse to train. And Liverpool are going to be in a position where they don't need to pay 150 million, and Newcastle will contact them and try and do a deal. Liverpool are trying to basically put Newcastle in a position where if Isak's still playing up come end of August, they kind of want Liverpool to buy him. And this could drag on. I think it's a negotiation tactic. Now, Newcastle, you stole Ekatike from Newcastle, Liverpool. Man United are taking Sesko at this point in time. Newcastle have every right to want 150 million. Newcastle have every right to want and demand 150 million. They do. Because they're having a horror of a transfer window and they can't lose this guy. This guy is so important to them. So that's why they want 150 million. But when a player is forcing a move, Newcastle have got two options. They've got to hope that one, they give Alexander Isak a big new contract with a release clause in of maybe £110 million. And he goes, you know what? Next year, I know loads of clubs will pay 110 million for me. So I'm going to accept this new contract because at least I'm on good wages. And next year, I'll get my move. Or they have to lower the Isak fee and Liverpool can swoop him. That's the two situations that Newcastle are in. Wolves did it with Cunha. Gave him big new wages, gave him a 60 million release clause, loads of clubs went in for him, he got his move to Man United. Isak, they tried that with Isak, it hasn't worked, but maybe they gave him a 140 million release clause or something like that. I think if you gave Isak 250k a week, 100 to 110 million pound release clause, maybe he'd sign a new deal and do one more year at Newcastle. I think Newcastle have got to try that and give him nice wages and a good release clause, or they're just going to be in a position end of August where I think he will just go to Liverpool, because if he's playing up end of August, I don't think Newcastle would turn down 120 million. Now, obviously, as we know by the news, Newcastle rejected the official bid. They did try and offer him sort of a release clause, and his teammates are pushing. Newcastle are trying to offer him a deal where he gets a release clause next summer and he gets nice wages, and his teammates are pushing that. Maybe that happens. Liverpool are taking the risk. They're saying we're not going to bid again. And see if they lower the fee. But then other sources saying they are going to bid again. You know, terms have been agreed according to Florian Plettenberg. A bid has been rejected. But other sources are saying a new offer is very likely. So lots of mixed stuff going on. But why do I think Liverpool are going to bid again? Ben Jacobs saying Liverpool aren't going to bid again. The bid's been rejected. What I don't believe Liverpool are going to walk away. And this is why. Yeah, right now everyone's reacting to the news being like, "Low, Liverpool in the mud," or "Why are Liverpool walking away?" to this Ben Jacobs news that Liverpool aren't going to bid again. And Ben Jacobs has been very accurate this summer, but that is a classic negotiation tactic. I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I might be repeating myself. That doesn't mean Liverpool aren't going to bid again. That doesn't mean the bid is off. This happens in nearly every big transfer. Man United did it with Mason Mount, and if you count that as a big transfer, we walked away. We said we weren't going to bid again, and we did. I mean, Manchester United walk away from every deal, say they're not going to bid again, and then they actually do. But in response to Ben Jacobs saying this, by the way, that Liverpool have no plans as it stands to bid again for Isak, I'm going to tell you this now. This does not mean the deal is off. This is a classic football negotiation tactic, and we see this all the time. Liverpool know he's forcing the move, and likely by the end of August, Newcastle will have no choice but to lower the fee. Newcastle's best bet, and I don't know if Isak will agree to this, is to offer him a really good contract. As I said, 250k a week, really, nice release clause, 100 million. People are going to pay that and put pressure on him to stay one more season. Both scenarios are possible. I'm sure they will discuss again. I'm sure, this doesn't mean the deal is over, guys. Now, there is a lot of reports coming out that that Liverpool will bid again. I don't know how credible these are. You're going to have to tell me. So this is from David OCKOP, talking about a new bid, which surely Newcastle would accept that. That's a crazy bid. I don't know. That doesn't sound true. And Liverpool are understood to be preparing a second bid. It's a negotiation tactic. Make it look like we're walking away. Get them worried. Put in a second bid. Or they do that. Or Liverpool are playing a game. Isak sees that Liverpool aren't going to bid again. He goes ballistic, forces a move. It's Newcastle's way of getting the price tag down. And this is why, and look, Newcastle have every right to do what they can to hold on to Isak. Newcastle don't want to lose Isak. But this is why Newcastle in a weak position, because Isak is forcing the move. This is coming out from Newcastle-based journalists. Isak is using the Real Sociedad training facilities in Spain. If a player is injured, they always go back to their club. Newcastle, the richest club in the world, you would go back and use their training facilities and their rehab facilities. He's not. He's doing it in Spain with Real Sociedad. Newcastle haven't confirmed if they knew about this. There's talk about Isak not going back to the Newcastle camp, and there was people at Newcastle angry. It raises questions on why the rehab isn't at his own club. They believe an offer from Liverpool is expected this week. It was. He said this yesterday. Movement on a deal could come quickly once a bid lands. Sky Sports Keith, again, Newcastle-based journalist. Newcastle are aware of this. He's recovering from a minor thigh injury. Believes if Liverpool submit a big bid, the deal will get done. 135 million is what he's saying. So Liverpool put in about 110, 120 million with some add-ons. They need to hit 135. Now, this is all what was said the other day before the bid went in. It's only Liverpool for Isak. He only wants Liverpool. And Isak's camp made it clear last season that it would be his final one and he wants a fresh challenge. So Isak is saying last season, this is my final year at Newcastle. I want a new challenge, and he only wants Liverpool. Apparently, people close to Isak confirmed that Newcastle warned him last season was his last, and Newcastle haven't given that promise. He wants to move to a club competing for the biggest trophy, and some say there is no turning back. Now, that's the big one. Liverpool walk away. Isak and his agency, that they get angry. They put more pressure on Newcastle because Isak has that stance of no turning back. Alex Crook has just said that Liverpool will not get dragged into a cycle of rejected bids, as previously stated with their initial offer. In the region of a British record package, Newcastle would need a suitable replacement before entertaining selling the striker. I'm going back to what I mentioned earlier. I think if Newcastle sign Sesko, they'll go back to the talking board for Isak. But if Newcastle don't sign a good striker, they're going to be demanding 150 million for Isak because they don't have a replacement, because you took Ekitike, United could be taking Sesko. It's one of those situations. It's all a game. It's all games at the moment. But the thing is, you can either Newcastle got to sweeten Isak up and get him to sign a new deal and stay another year. But they said to him last year that would be his last year, so he might not want to do that. Or they might have to sell him because he's really forcing this move. Isak's absence from training started speculation he wanted to leave. Initially spotted training alone before being ruled out of tour with a thigh injury. He hasn't been seen at the training ground since, believed to be training at home while Newcastle decide whether to sell. Isak is making his stance clear. He's forcing a move. So why is Isak forcing a move? Because Newcastle are in the Champions League. They don't want to sell him. Why is he forcing a move? I think Eddie Howe is a fantastic manager, and I think he's been done dirty by Newcastle these last 4 windows. There was nothing in January. There was nothing the summer before. I'm not counting Osula and Lloyd Kelly, and there was nothing the January before. This is the 4th window. Suspension felt like a new signing, but that was 2 summers ago. I think Alexander Isak saw Champions League football, and I think initially he was happy to stay at Newcastle. Because when we went into the summer, we believed that Newcastle could be getting Mbumo and Jab. Well, I could be playing with Ekitike, cool stuff. Alanga's come in. And then I think the minute Ekitike went to Liverpool, Isak's stance changed. And I think it's the realisation that Newcastle aren't quite there yet to compete with what I'm going to call the top 4. Newcastle are the best of the rest. But the pull of the big 6 in the Premier League is ridiculous. You know, Manchester United finished 15th, but they have pull. Now, of course, wages as well. The big 6 can offer higher wages because if Man United don't qualify for the Champions League, we still make the most money out of all the clubs, so we can afford to give high wages without Champions League football. Whereas if Newcastle go a year without making Champions League, their income significantly decreases, so they can't offer the same wages. So because of PSR, Newcastle can't obviously offer the same wages, so it's harder for them to get the players that they want. But also, when you go in for a player and Liverpool going for the same player, the player's going to pick Liverpool. You go in for a player and Chelsea going for the same player, the player could pick Chelsea. I was questioned why João Pedro did pick Chelsea over Newcastle because I actually thought he suited Newcastle better, but that's working well. Same with Cunha, same with Mbumo. You know, with Manchester United, wages will play a part, but Man United giving Mbumo 150k a week, that's not ridiculous. It's not, you know, it was made out to be 250k a week. It's not ridiculous. Like, wages play a part, but it is like the top 4 clubs just seem to have that pull. And I think Newcastle are brilliant and they've come 5th and they've become a Champions League team, but they just don't seem to have that final bit of pull to take them from Champions League to challengers. They're in that place, they're 5th place, but they don't have that pull to take them in that title race. They couldn't get João Pedro and Bremer Ekitike. Obviously, some things were their fault. If they'd moved quicker for James Trafford, they would have got a deal done. And I think Isak was happy to stay originally, saw how the transfer window went, saw Newcastle taking L's, and thought, I want out of here, because he maybe doesn't believe in the Newcastle project anymore. I think he went into the summer thinking Newcastle were going to make a load of good signings and really challenge the teams above them. I think he's thought, no, we're not. I'm out of here. And I think a lot of Newcastle fans also feel that way. Now, where it sucks for Newcastle is he's done it after you miss out on Ekitike and João Pedro and Delap and all these players when you need him now more. Like, if he'd have done it and Newcastle had got Isak, I think if you'd have sold Isak a month ago to Liverpool, Liverpool had got Isak. I think if you'd have sold Isak a month ago to Liverpool, I don't think Liverpool would have gone into Ekitike, because he wasn't forcing a move till after Liverpool got Ekitike. And then the minute he was forcing a move, Liverpool were like, well, we might as well go for him, because we're going to sell Diaz and we're going to sell Nunes. We might as well go for Isak if he's on the market and forcing a move. I think if he'd have gone a month ago, I don't know if Liverpool would have got Ekitike. And I think it's annoying for Newcastle because he waits until they miss out on Ekitike to then force the move. And I think had it been the other way, I think Newcastle would have got Ekitike, and I think Liverpool would have got Isak. I don't think Liverpool, would have gone and got Ekitike after signing Isak. I actually don't think they would have. Maybe I'm wrong there. But I think that's where it sucks, because if Man United get Sesko, Chelsea got João Pedro, and Ekitike is at Liverpool, Newcastle don't have an alternative. So Newcastle, of course, don't want to sell, and it sucks that Isak waits until there's no alternative to do that. Why didn't he force a move earlier? Why didn't he force a move? It's the timing. But he's forcing a move because I feel like he doesn't believe that Newcastle can catch Liverpool. And you've also got to look at Liverpool. What are Liverpool building? They're building a super team. Wirtz is a 10. Ekitike, technical 9 that you can rotate with. Isak, the last few games, had to play because Callum Wilson was either injured or completely unreliable when he did come on the pitch. And Isak had to end the season injured. So at least he's got someone to rotate with, someone he can play with. Ekitike and Isak could be like Marmoush and Ekitike at Frankfurt. He gets to play with Salah, he gets to play with Gakpo. Newcastle have some fantastic players. But Wirtz, Salah, Gakpo, Premier League favourites, Champions League favourites. Liverpool have the ball. Gravenberch, McAllister, title contenders, Champions League contenders. For me, Newcastle can get fifth next season. For me, Newcastle could do a Villa and go on a very good run in the Champions League. But Liverpool are seen as contenders. They play a 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3, which suits Isak. It could unlock his prime years. And when you go to Liverpool, you get recognition. I think Newcastle have some underrated players. I think had Sandro Tonali done what he did for Newcastle last season at Manchester City, Sandro Tonali would have been spoken about as a top 3 midfielder in the world. But because he did that at Newcastle, he gets spoken about as a good midfielder, but maybe he goes under the radar. And that just happens at Newcastle. Some of your players will go under the radar. So I also think if you go to Liverpool and you're really good, you get in those Ballon d'Or conversations where as good as Tonali is and Bruno Guimaraes is, they do go under the radar. Either because he scores goals, he doesn't go under the radar as much. But I do think Tonali, had he played as good as he did for Man City, if he was at Man City and played as good as he did last season, he'd been team of the season. Tonali wasn't in any of Carragher or Neville's team of the seasons. They put Bruno Guimaraes in, I think one of them did. But Tonali was better. But I think if Tonali had done that at Man City, he would have been in everyone's team of the season shouts. And that's just the sad truth of it. But I honestly believe this. I think Isak believes he's outgrown Newcastle's current ceiling, which is 5th place. He doesn't believe they're going to catch the 4 ahead. Liverpool matches ambition and talent level. That's what I think he believes. He sees Liverpool as a club that he can go to and win it all at. I don't think he sees Newcastle going that way. And I think Slot's attacking system, the players he can play along, it's not just about wages. He's in the peak years of his career. Apparently Newcastle said to him, yeah, this year will be his final year, and they've not stuck to that promise. Who knows if that's true? And I think he's thought, F this, I'm out. I think that's the situation. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. Bye.